Captain Zaylor stood in the middle of his ship's control room, his four eyes narrowing in frustration. The lights above flickered for the fourth time in the last hour. The strange disturbances had started shortly after the human child was brought aboard. At first, it seemed like a coincidence. After all, how could one small human cause problems for an advanced starship like theirs? But now, Zaylor wasn't so sure. "Captain, we're losing control of the power grid again," shouted Cranach, the ship's head engineer, his voice filled with panic. His long blue fingers flew across the control panel, but nothing seemed to work. The lights dimmed, and a soft hum ran through the walls of the ship, almost as if the ship itself was alive and confused. Zaylor clenched his sharp teeth and growled, "Fix it! We can't have a system failure. Not now." His tail twitched with irritation as he watched the chaotic scene unfold. In another corner of the control room, the communications officer frantically tried to keep the systems online. "Captain, the internal doors keep opening and closing by themselves. I've never seen anything like this before," she said, shaking her head. "It's almost like something is controlling the ship." Zaylor frowned deeply, his large reptilian form towering over the crew members. "Impossible. We are the most advanced species in the galaxy. No primitive human child could cause this." The child. Zaylor's thoughts shifted to the small human they had captured. When they first found the boy drifting in space, they had assumed he would be an easy target, just another weak creature from a backward planet. But now, with the ship acting up in strange ways, Zaylor began to wonder if they had underestimated this human. Down in the cargo bay, where the child was being held, things were no better. The guards reported strange events there too. The lights would flicker on and off, sometimes plunging the entire area into darkness. There were moments when the artificial gravity would shift, making everyone feel lighter, as if the ship was malfunctioning at its very core. Cranach hurried to the captain's side, his face pale with fear. "Captain, I've checked every system. There's no explanation for what's happening. The power fluctuations, the gravity shifts, the doors, none of it makes sense. It's almost like the ship is reacting to something." Zaylor gritted his teeth and glared at Cranach. "Something? Or someone?" Cranach hesitated. "Captain, we've detected a strange energy field and it's coming from the child." For a moment, silence fell over the control room. The crew stopped what they were doing, all eyes turning to the captain. Zaylor's mind raced. He didn't want to believe that a single human child could cause this much chaos on his ship. But the evidence was piling up. The child, barely 10 years old, had been unconscious when they brought him aboard. He looked harmless, small, and innocent. But now, Zaylor couldn't shake the feeling that they had made a terrible mistake. "Send a team to investigate," Zaylor ordered, his voice sharp. "I want to know what's happening in that cargo bay, and bring the child to me." As the crew scrambled to obey, Zaylor's eyes narrowed. He had never liked humans. They were unpredictable, chaotic, and far too emotional for his taste. But he had never feared them. To him, humans were just one of many species in the galaxy, nothing special. But now, as the ship shook again and the lights flickered once more, a cold dread began to creep into Zaylor's chest. Could it be that this child wasn't just an ordinary human? Was there something more dangerous lurking beneath the surface of that small, innocent-looking face? He would soon find out. The alien ship, once so calm and orderly, was now filled with confusion. Every system on board seemed to be acting out of control, and the crew had no idea why. Strange power surges, flickering lights, and weird sounds echoed through the hallways. Captain Zaylor had already given orders to investigate, but the real mystery lay in the cargo bay, where the human child was being held. Down in the cargo bay, the air felt different. There was a quiet hum, barely noticeable but enough to make the guards uneasy. The ship's sensors had been acting strange ever since they brought the child on board. At first, the crew thought it was just a malfunction, a glitch in their systems. But now they had discovered something much more troubling. A strange energy field was coming from the boy. Tieran, the ship's chief science officer, was the first to notice it. His tall, thin frame hunched over a control panel, his bright yellow eyes scanning the readings in front of him. At first, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The energy readings were off the charts, and they were all coming from one source, the child. He hurried to the captain's quarters, clutching his tablet tightly. "Captain Zaylor, we need to talk." Zaylor looked up from his chair, his eyes narrowing. "What is it now, Tieran? More malfunctions?" Tyrion shook his head. No, Captain, this is something else. It's the child. He's not normal. Zaylor raised an eyebrow. Not normal? What do you mean? Tyrion took a deep breath before answering. There's an energy field surrounding him. I don't know how to explain it, but it's strong. It's affecting the ship's systems. It might be causing all the problems we've been having. Zalor frowned, leaning back in his chair. An energy field? From a human child? Yes, Tyrion replied. The readings are unlike anything we've ever seen. I ran multiple scans to be sure. The child seems to be generating some kind of energy. It's not natural, not for a human at least. Zalor's mind raced. Humans were known for their cleverness, their adaptability, and their will to survive. But this was something different, something beyond what he had expected. A child generating energy? It didn't make sense, but the evidence was right there in front of him. Back in the cargo bay, the guard stood by the cell where the boy lay on a small cot. The child seemed peaceful, unaware of the chaos he was causing throughout the ship. His breathing was slow, and he looked like any other human child. But around him, the strange hum grew louder, like the ship itself was reacting to his presence. Suddenly, the lights above flickered again, and the guards exchanged worried glances. "Did you hear that?" one of them whispered. "Yeah," the other replied, nervously gripping his weapon. "It's coming from the kid, isn't it?" They both stared at the boy, unsure of what to do. They had been trained to handle all sorts of threats: pirates, enemy ships, dangerous creatures. But a human child with strange powers? That wasn't in the manual. Up in the control room, Tyrion continued explaining to the captain. "If this energy keeps growing, it could overwhelm our systems. We need to contain it fast." Zaylor grunted in frustration. "Contain it? How? Do we even know what we're dealing with?" Tyrion shook his head. "No, Captain. But one thing is clear. This child is dangerous." Zalor stood up, pacing the room. This mission was supposed to be simple. Grab a human, return to the council, and collect their reward. But now, things were spiraling out of control. If what Tyrion said was true, they were dealing with something far beyond their understanding. "Bring the child to me," Zaylor ordered, his voice cold. "I want to see this for myself." As the crew prepared to move the child, a quiet fear spread among them. This was no ordinary human, and if they weren't careful, the strange energy surrounding the boy could turn their ship into a death trap. Captain Zaylor stood at the edge of the observation deck, his eyes fixed on the small human child sitting in the containment cell. The boy seemed calm, almost too calm, considering the chaos his arrival had caused on the ship. Lights still flickered, and the strange energy pulsing from him made the entire crew uneasy. Yet the child sat there, swinging his legs like he didn't have a care in the world. Behind Zaylor, his crew whispered nervously. None of them had ever seen anything like this before. The human child looked harmless, just a small boy with messy hair and curious eyes. But everyone on the ship knew something was wrong. The strange energy that surrounded him was beyond anything they could understand. Tyrion, the science officer, stood beside Zaylor. "Captain, I suggest we question the boy. We need to find out where this energy is coming from." Zaylor nodded. He didn't like dealing with humans, but he had no choice. This child was more than he seemed, and Zaylor needed answers. He stepped closer to the containment cell, the barrier separating him from the boy shimmering softly. "Human!" Zaylor's voice boomed, echoing in the small chamber. "You will speak to me now." The child looked up, his bright eyes locking onto Zaylor. There was no fear in the boy's gaze, only curiosity. "Are you an alien?" the boy asked, tilting his head. Zaylor's eyes narrowed. "I am Captain Zaylor of the Kuthar Empire, and you are a prisoner aboard my ship." The boy blinked, then smiled. "Cool! My name's Liam. I've never been on a spaceship before. Is this like one of those cool spaceships from the movies?" The crew stared in disbelief. This child didn't seem scared or confused. He acted like this was all some kind of adventure. Zaylor, however, was not amused. He was a proud warrior, a captain of one of the most advanced ships in the galaxy, and this human child was treating him like a toy. "Liam," Zaylor said, his voice firm. "You were taken from your planet. Do you understand that?" Liam shrugged. "Yeah, I figured. But my dad always told me not to worry. Humans are the strongest species in the universe. He says we have all kinds of secret technology and stuff. Is that why you took me? To find out about our secret tech?" Tyrion's eyes widened at the boy's words. "Secret technology? Could this child be connected to some advanced human project? Zaylor gritted his teeth. He didn't like where this conversation was going. Secret technology? Zaylor echoed, his voice laced with suspicion. What do you know about this? Liam smiled innocently. Oh, lots of stuff. My dad works for the government, and he told me that humans have ships that can travel faster than light, and we even have weapons that can blow up entire planets. He leaned forward as if sharing a big secret. We don't use them much, though, only if we really have to. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. This boy couldn't be serious. Could he? The Kuthar Empire had always considered humans a primitive species, nothing more than a minor annoyance in the grand scheme of the galaxy. But now, with the child's strange powers and talk of advanced human technology, they weren't so sure. Zalor's tail flicked with frustration. Was this child telling the truth, or was he playing some sort of game? Either way, Zaylor wasn't about to let his guard down. You will tell us everything you know, Zaylor said, his voice cold. Or I will make sure you never see your home again. Liam didn't seem scared by the threat. He simply smiled. You can't hurt me. My dad says humans are super tough. We can survive almost anything. At that moment, the lights above them flickered again, and the strange hum of energy filled the air. Zaylor felt the ship tremble beneath his feet. The child wasn't lying. There was something about him, something dangerous. The crew watched in silent fear as Liam continued to swing his legs, completely unfazed by the captain's warning. Zaylor clenched his fists. This child wasn't just a prisoner. He was a puzzle, one that could destroy everything if they weren't careful. The tension on the alien ship was growing with each passing hour. Whispers moved through the crew like a virus, spreading rumors and stoking fear. Everyone had heard about the human child, Liam, and the strange energy that seemed to radiate from him. The lights continued to flicker, systems malfunctioned, and the unsettling hum of power could be felt throughout the ship. Even the bravest of the Kuthar warriors were beginning to doubt their safety. Captain Zaylor could sense the shift in the atmosphere. His crew, once confident and efficient, now moved nervously through the halls. They glanced at each other with uncertainty, afraid to voice their thoughts but unable to hide their fear. Something was wrong, and everyone knew it. In the control room, Tyran paced back and forth, his yellow eyes wide with worry. Captain, we need to take action. The crew is on edge. If this continues, we risk losing control of the ship. Zaylor stood at the center of the room, his arms crossed. He was a warrior, trained to face danger head-on, but this situation was different. They were dealing with something they didn't understand. The child, Liam, was no ordinary human, and his presence was tearing the ship apart from the inside. We need to remain calm, Zaylor said firmly, though even he felt a sliver of doubt creeping into his mind. The boy is contained. Whatever is causing the energy surges can be dealt with. Tyran shook his head. It's not just the systems, Captain. The crew is terrified. They don't understand what's happening, and fear is spreading like wildfire. If we don't do something soon, they may panic. Zaylor gritted his teeth. Fear was a dangerous thing on a ship, especially one as advanced as theirs. One wrong move, one mistake, and the entire crew could fall into chaos. He couldn't allow that to happen. Have the guards doubled around the containment area, Zaylor ordered, and make sure the child doesn't leave his cell under any circumstances. But even as he gave the command, Zaylor could sense the fear spreading through his own voice. Deep down, he knew that keeping Liam contained wasn't going to stop the problem. There was something about the boy, something powerful, that no barrier could hold back. Down in the lower decks, the crew whispered to each other in hushed voices. They had seen the energy readings. They had felt the tremors in the ship, and now they were beginning to fear for their lives. Have you heard what the kid said? One of the engineers whispered to his companion. He claims humans have secret technology that can blow up planets. That's just a story, the other replied, though his voice trembled. Humans are primitive. They don't have that kind of power. Then explain the energy, the engineer shot back. I've been monitoring the systems all day. Whatever's happening on this ship is coming from that kid. If we don't do something, we're all going to die here. In the crew's quarters, the guards who had been watching Liam stood together, sharing nervous glances. None of them wanted to admit it, but they were scared. The boy was no ordinary prisoner, and the strange feeling that filled the air whenever they got close to him was enough to make even the toughest soldiers uneasy. Do you think the captain knows what he's doing? One of them asked, gripping his weapon tightly. I hope so, another replied. But if that kid's power keeps growing, I'm not sure even the captain can stop it. As the hours passed, the unease only grew. The ship, once a symbol of strength and security, now felt like a trap. Fear was spreading through the crew like poison, making everyone jumpy and paranoid. Every flicker of the lights, every strange sound made their hearts race. No one knew what Liam was capable of, and the unknown terrified them. Captain Zalor stood in his quarters, staring at a monitor showing the child in his cell. Liam sat quietly, humming to himself, completely unaware of the chaos he was causing. But Zalor knew that this boy held more power than any of them could understand. And if they didn't figure out how to stop it, the fear gripping the crew would be the least of their problems. As the days passed aboard the Q-Thar ship, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Crew members whispered about the human child, Liam, and the strange energy surrounding him. Every moment spent near him felt charged, as if the air itself was alive. Captain Zalor could sense that the situation was spiraling out of control, and he feared the worst. In the containment cell, Liam sat quietly. He had started to feel different, stronger somehow. The energy pulsing within him was no longer just a hum. It was a roar, a force he could barely understand. He felt it coursing through his small body, and he began to wonder what he was capable of. One day, as he swung his legs, the strange energy erupted in a wave that lit up the room. The lights flickered brighter, and the barrier around his cell shimmered. Liam looked around, wide-eyed and excited. "Wow, this is amazing!" he exclaimed, feeling powerful for the first time in his life. In the control room, alarms blared as the energy levels surged. Tyrion, the science officer, leaped to his console, panic written across his face. "Captain, the energy readings are off the charts! We need to contain this before it gets worse." Zalor's heart raced as he rushed to the control room. The screens showed chaotic patterns of light, and the crew scrambled to keep the ship stable. "What's happening? What's causing this?" "It's coming from the child," Tyrion shouted. "Whatever power he has is growing. If we don't stop it, the ship will be in danger." Zalor turned to the nearest guard. "Prepare to reinforce the containment field. We must ensure he doesn't escape." Meanwhile, Liam was oblivious to the chaos he was causing. The energy surged around him, and he felt a rush of joy and excitement. He imagined being a superhero with the power to do anything he wanted. "I can do anything!" he shouted, his voice echoing in the small cell. Suddenly, the energy around him intensified, and the containment field began to tremble. Liam raised his small hands, feeling the vibrations in the air. "I want to break free!" he yelled. To his surprise, the field responded. It flickered, and then shattered like glass, sending shards of energy flying in every direction. In the control room, chaos erupted. "He's free! The child is free!" Tyrion shouted as he watched the screens flicker. The guards rushed to secure the area, but it was too late. Liam burst from his cell, eyes shining with newfound power. Zalor was horrified as he witnessed the scene unfold. "Stop him! Capture the child!" he commanded. But the crew hesitated, caught between fear and awe. The boy radiated energy that made them feel both terrified and mesmerized. Liam ran through the ship laughing and filled with glee. "I'm free! I can fly! I can do anything!" The walls of the ship trembled with each step he took. The lights flashed brighter, and the hum of power echoed around him. The crew tried to regain control, but it was as if the ship itself was responding to Liam's joy. Panels exploded and sparks flew as the energy surged. Zalor knew they were losing control. "We must contain him. If he can't be stopped, he could destroy us all." As Liam ran, he began to feel the power within him expand. He raised his hands again, and with a wave, he sent a shockwave through the ship. The walls shook, and the crew struggled to maintain their footing. "Please, Liam, stop!" a voice cried from behind him. It was one of the guards trying to reason with the child. "You don't understand what you're doing!" But Liam only laughed, the sound echoing through the corridors. He felt invincible, like a god among mortals. "I can do anything!" he shouted again, letting the power swell around him. In that moment, Zalor made a decision. He had to confront the child, to reach him before it was too late. Gathering his courage, he stepped forward. "Liam! You must listen to me. This power is dangerous." Liam turned, the joy in his eyes replaced by curiosity. "Dangerous? But I feel so strong." "Yes, but with great power comes great responsibility," Zalor said, trying to sound calm. "You can't control this energy without understanding it. You need guidance." For a moment, Liam hesitated, the thrill of his newfound abilities battling with the fear that began to creep in. Zalor took a step closer, hoping to connect with the child. "Let me help you, Liam. Together we can learn how to control your power." Liam looked at Zalor, searching for sincerity in the captain's eyes. He could feel the energy still swirling around him, wild and untamed. But perhaps with help, he could find a way to harness it.